What's happening, sports fans? Christian Pedersen, Colton, Tull. This is San Diego Prep Insider, and we welcome you to high school football season. It's finally a fit. We've been doing football content for a while, but it's now actually football season. It's scrimmage week. Colton and I are both sweaty, and usually that means that August is in full heat wave mode. So yeah, it's football, checking all of the boxes. Colton, happy football season. This is the Division 4 preview. Division 4, I think this year is my division that I have circled as the most what the heck is going to happen. There's way too many different permutations about how this all plays out. Colton, I'm sure that you have a couple of teams that you range from they could be 7-3 to 3-7 and everything in between, because this is just going to be such a neck and neck crazy battle. Top to bottom, a lot of really good teams. Colton, where do you want to start in this Division 4 discussion this year?
Super interesting division. Obviously, last few years it's been dominated by teams like Patrick Henry, University City. They moved up, so now it's free game. It's anyone's division. I think you're spot on. They really have no idea what's going to go on, but you got to talk about the reigning Division 5 champs first and foremost. Palo Verde Valley out of Blythe, California, returning champs, and they're basically their key contributors on offense and defense. They have Ian Maciel on the defense with 16 sacks. I believe he was second in the county. He also plays some tight end for them. Big presence on the field for them. And then you got to talk about their secondary and their backfield, which consists of guys as Marcus Masson, Xavier Benjaro, and Xavier Gonzalez Pinon. Athletes all over the field, absolute studs. These are guys that are going to run thousands. This team could lead the county in total team rushing yards when it's all said and done. They have a big lineman, Terrell Cross. He's 6 foot, 270 on the offensive line. Happy to see what he can do. I'm pretty sure he plays left tackle for them, running behind him. This is a team that may be D4, but they have studs all up and down the field. Going to be fun to watch.
The other half of that D5 championship game last year, Mission Bay, they also move up to Division 4. No Clash Osborne for the first time in a couple years, but a lot of his receiving core is returning. So I would like to also tag in that maybe not quite as established roadmap for them, but Mission Bay is still a team to look out for. They did not lose a ton of those weapons last year. And so you got to, at least me, I always give the benefit of the doubt, or tip of the cap, if you will, to the teams that are coming off of a deep playoff run and returning a lot of those players. Mission Bay is just another one of those teams, though, at the top that seems like there's an absolute log jam. What I start to look at, though, Colton, is Fallbrook, Montgomery, Hilltop. You get a little bit further down, and there are some issues here where I think that we run into inconsistency with the strengths of schedules and the math playing a bigger part than maybe the actual football. Fallbrook, they don't have a Division 4 game on their schedule this year. I'm going to say that again. They don't have a Division 4 game on their schedule this year. You look at, Hilltop. They've got to play Mater Dei Catholic because of interleague, and Mater Dei could potentially be a high D1 or an open division. Kind of go down Montgomery. Like there's maybe a dozen teams, maybe a half dozen teams in this Division 4 race that they could end up being one of those wonky, well, that team is 3-7, but they're in third place, or that team is 4-6, but are they really we think they're better than they are, or that team is 7-0, but are they as good as that team? This one is going to be maybe the hardest when we're about 6 or 7 games in to really have like actually good levels of judgment as to where everything is. So in terms of actually relatively on that Division 4 plane. So how do you even start to make sense of that like second tier of teams?
It's ridiculously hard because this is a division where you could have a team that's 4 wins and 8 seed, and they could fly through the playoffs. Up and down, like you said, the strength schedule that goes a lot in the seeding. You're gonna have teams that are up, teams that are lower based on wins and that. So then you're gonna have teams like Chula Vista. Chula Vista is down here in these rankings, but Chula Vista has a good squad up there. Coach Bannister knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a while. They have a big lineman that they're excited about. But then you have a team like Valhalla. Valhalla has fallen off the past couple of years, but historically they've been a pretty good program. So you just got to think about these middle of the pack teams. When it comes late in the season, the playoff time, you can't base too much off of it on record because a lot of it goes into seeding and the strength of schedule.
It feels like to me, like about Country Day, there's great receivers there. Are they a complete team though?
Well, you got to think they're returning in a prolific duo. and Garrett Bass, Symposio, and Charlie Gooding. They're going to be up there in terms of wide receiver one and quarterback one production. But it does come down to whether or not they can play some defense. They can stop because they're gonna be in shootouts. That's what they do. That's what we've come to know Country Day as, is a team that can win a shootout. But it's gonna come down to those late games. There's gonna be some injuries late in the season. Can their defense step up in games like that? Can they win the close game? Can they make a defensive stop when it needs to? You got to watch them for the beginning of the season to see if they'll be able to do that later in the season. But as far as their offense, I'm not concerned. It just comes down to whether or not their defense and special teams grows as the season goes on.
This could be like a 6 seed versus a 10 seed in the championship
100%.
or something like that. You mentioned Valhalla. We had them in studio, shameless plug to go check that interview out. But I thought they had a really interesting mentality where they were talking about, hey, we're just trying to send the message that we're not the same team as last year. We're not saying that we're going to win every game or produce 100 yards every game or whatever. We're just saying we're not going to be defeated in defeat. We're not going to put our heads down. We're not going to be just let teams roll over us. So absolutely love to circle Valhalla as a potential spoiler. I think Sweetwater showed that they were on that upward trajectory last year and that they have a culture that has figured out the run game, and you can't sometimes overcome a run game when it's A, just going to wear you down, and B, they're going to kill the clock and really be time of possession. And Sweetwater's been also shown to put up 70 type points. And I think that they are somebody that even if they lose a senior class that maybe was large production, you got to always look out for what they're going to be able to produce. Chula Vista, like you said, Francis Parker, they lose a little bit to transferring, but to me, like the Parker, Bishops, that whole Coastal League, SFC, all those schools, you can't ever count them fully out. They tend to play they're a competitive group internally. They're all playing those shootouts. They all seem to have that specialized ability to play like their style of play and implement the clutch moments. So you got to look at what Francis Parker might be capable of doing. This just is to me, I guess this has to all come down to hoping and praying that the math doesn't overly complicate things. And maybe this is more of a back half league heavy schedule and analysis type of season for this race compared to any others.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And you also got to look at, you looked at the bottom of this list, you have teams like Coltville, Calexico. Let's say they get a home game in the playoffs and the team has to travel out there. That's always going to be rough on the visiting team. So, you can see teams like that playing super spoiler, getting a home game potentially. And you never really know what those offenses even look like half the time because you don't ever see them. So teams like that are always spoiling team seasons. Those are teams you got to circle and just watch out for because you just never know.
I want to shout out one other player before we get out of here with this preview, and that's Ryan Harrod at Westview, the senior quarterback, has committed to be a baseball player in college, so he's got an arm. I think Westview, to me, feels like a team that at least internally hopes that they have hit the bottom and that they're going back up. They've, a bigger school. They've been up in the higher divisions recently, and they have produced some legitimate talent that has gone on, like Mandela Tobin, to play in Division I ranks and play well. So I think that this could be an interesting year where you got a senior quarterback who is trying to kind of leave it all out there because he's already decided that he's not going to play any more football past this. And there's something fun and reckless about that usually, where you got that senior guy with a decent arm who's just like, hey, let's gun it all out, air it all out. I think Westview could be a very, very easy candidate for you to convince me, hey, they've got the big play factor. They've got the deep ball threat, finally figured out. They're going to be competitive in every single game this season.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, that factor, it really is a lot of fun. They're coming off a 2-win season. They might as well just say, go out there, do your thing, air it out. And it could be a lot of fun to watch over there.
Well, and it's also interesting looking at the way that the CIF chart kind of slates it, and we'll close out on this. The divisions are stacked in terms of last year's final rankings. And so last year's final rankings in the point system, the way it comes out, the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds going into the season, hypothetically, and I know that this means the least amount of nothing that nothing has ever meant in terms of actual way to analyze football, but according to the computer, Westview, Palo Verde, Fallbrook, and Mission Bay. Those are the 4 teams. Those are 2 champions from last year, and those are 2 big schools. So it feels like this is going to be chaos. This is going to be colliding in terms of let's use this season as the prism to judge. Does strength of schedule really, determine an underlying factor by which you can analyze football? Because this is going to be really, really hard to figure out. Colton, anything that we missed from your point of view on the Division IV race?
I don't think we mentioned Coronado. I love what Coach Kurt Hines has done over there. Obviously, one of the biggest influences on social media in terms of coaching. Feels like we've been waiting for them to break out for a couple years now with him building a program over there. So hopefully we can see that all come together for him. But love what he's doing over there on the island.
A lot to love about all of these teams. We'll be back every single week, all season long at SD Prep Insider with more football. Colton is at Pro Colton Tull. I'm at Mr. CPED. Thank you very much, people, for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next time.